Typically, most of the applications you can find on your favorite Unix-like operating system are very customizable, many to the point of requiring an entire configuration file to be able to set all your preferences effectively. If, for example, you ever played around with customizing your shell prompt, you already know what I'm talking about. dotfiles. Dotfiles is another name for the configuration files for said programs. They're called like this because their name typically starts with a dot, or because they're contained inside a folder of which the name starts with a dot. In Unix-like operating systems, files that start with a dot are hidden. This is a convention that originates from quite a long time ago. To allow easy navigation in Unix, each directory contains two special shortcuts, respectively dot and dot dot. You can see them by yourself anytime you run ls-a in your terminal inside any folder. The first two items you see are these two shortcuts. Dot indicates the current directory, and dot dot indicates the parent directory. In early versions of ls, these two shortcuts were always shown, but it was kind of distracting. After all, they're always there no matter where you are. So they decided to make a change in ls, so that before showing a file, the name was checked. If it started with a dot, then it wouldn't be shown. This introduced an interesting bug. Any file starting with a dot wouldn't be shown. As it's often the case in the tech world, a bug became a feature. But enough with history, let's go back to our dot files. Configuration files are typically stored somewhere in your home directory, as hidden files themselves or inside hidden folders. Showing them is quite easy. Just run ls-a or press Ctrl and H in your favorite graphical file manager. Once you know where your dot files are, you can start playing around with them, configuring your system away. Now here you are. You spent an entire day configuring your shell, text editor, and possibly even setting up a fancy tiling window manager. Congratulations! But what if you switch your computer? Or say you have to reinstall your operating system? What would you do? Well, you could spend another day reconfiguring everything, or maybe you can move your files from one computer to the other manually like a caveman. Of course, these are not feasible options. Fortunately, you're not the first one to face this problem. There are many ways, some more intricate than others, to manage your dot files efficiently and between multiple devices. Today, I'll show you how I do it. So with no further ado guys, let's check it out.
Alright, so the way I manage my dot files is really quite simple. The key factor here is I'm using Git to manage the dot files themselves. So let's just navigate to my dot files folder, and you'll find it on my Git folder / my dot files. And as you see here, there are quite a lot of folders and some files here and there. So first off, I use my dot files for mostly ZSH and Vim, or really NeoVim, because that's what I'm using on my system. I also have some configurations for Alacrity, which is a minimal terminal emulator, as well as MPV for both AMD and NVIDIA graphics cards, and Zway. Zway is a tiling window manager for Wayland that's actually very similar to i3. I don't use Zway as my primary desktop environment, but I play around with it from time to time, and I like to have my configuration synced between all of my machines. So let's actually see what's inside all of these folders. And to do that, I'm gonna use a very simple command called tree. So as you see, each folder has a very similar structures to the others. Most of them have this .-config folder inside of them, and others just have some files like .-vimrc and .-zshrc. So inside the folders you can find the actual configuration. This is the folder that contains the actual configuration file. For Zway it's kind of a different story because these are really just categories. What I could have done is really just use one big folder and have everything just use that one folder. I could have called that folder, I don't know, just dotfiles for instance. But I just wanted to do some categorization just to make sure that I can, I don't know, remove Alacrity if I stop using that, or just have some more modularity so that I can better maintain my dot files. Inside of the Zway folder, I actually included quite a lot of stuff. Mako is a notification manager, SGTK menu is a menu system and interface system based on GTK and built for window managers in particular. Zway is the actual window manager, and Waybar is the panel that I'm using with Zway. So I've got everything that I need for Zway inside this Zway category, so to speak. As for Vim, I just have a simple vimrc if I happen to not have NeoVim wherever I have these dot files. I just like to have some little customizations in vanilla Vim. And as for ZSH, again, it's just the .zshrc file. So where most of the magic really happens is inside this make links script that I wrote. So let's actually go ahead and open that. So this is really just a very simple script. It's a bit messy, but really it's nothing too complicated. Okay, so my dot files are not completely 100% independent. They rely on some third-party packages, namely plug for NeoVim or OhmyZSH, which is a plugin manager for ZSH. So what I do before actually linking my actual dot files into my home folder is that I check for those packages and install them if they're not already there. So the first line here is this little line, which is a very simple if. So if the folder home.localshare-nvim site autoload does not exist, then create it. It's just as simple as that. Then if the file home.localshare-nvim site autoload plug.vim does exist, then just print plug for NeoVim is already installed, skipping, and then just goes ahead. Otherwise, it says installing plug for NeoVim, and then it just runs the script for the installation of plug for NeoVim. It's just as simple as that. Moving forward, it's pretty much the same thing for OhmyZSH. I check if the directory home.ohmyZSH exists. If it does, it says that OhmyZSH is already installed, and then it just skips ahead. Otherwise, it says installing OhmyZSH. It runs the script to install OhmyZSH, and I also print a message because I tend to forget that during the installation of OhmyZSH, the script actually runs ZSH itself. So what you want to do is then just exit the newly opened shell so that the script can continue. Same thing for the power level 10,000 theme for ZSH, which is the theme that I'm using. And again, same thing for the Flatpak plugin for OhmyZSH. And then here we are with the actual meat and potatoes of the script. So I'm using a program called GNU Stow, and you can see it used here. So of course, if you want to run this script, you gotta have Stow installed. It's a very common package. You can find it in whatever repositories your operating system uses. But before actually using Stow, I make sure that there are no actual links already there for the files that I want to copy. So I just go ahead and do rm-rf and then each and every one of the files that I'm going to replace. This looks a little scary, and there are probably better ways of doing this, but Stow doesn't have a mechanism that automatically replaces existing files. So, well, it does have some, but they're not really meant to do this. So what I'm doing instead is just removing everything manually, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. After everything that I want to be removed is actually removed, then what happens is I run Stow. And the framework for the command that I'm running is stow --dotfiles, which should do something that really doesn't do, but there's a bug in Stow currently, so I had to use a workaround. Even though this dotfiles option should make my life easier, it really doesn't. So --dotfiles -t, which means target, home.config, and what this does is it says the target directory where you want to install the dot files that I'm going to provide you is home.config. The option D means start from the directory that I'm going to tell you about, and I'm telling it to start from the directory alacrity, and then after that use the package called .config. And this is really a workaround, because Stow, if you use the dot files option, what it should do is interpret this .dash as a little dot. So this is mostly to avoid having your dot files repository filled with actual hidden files, which is doable, but it's not the easiest thing to manage. Also considering that Git by default ignores the hidden files. So if you do any modification, what you would do is actually adding manually every one of the dot files that you edited. So in a normal situation, I wouldn't have a command written like this, but I would have it actually more simple. I would have it like this basically, which is a lot more compact. But unfortunately, as I said, currently there's a bug in Stau that doesn't recognize hidden directories starting with .dash as actual hidden directories. It just recognizes them as normal directories and it doesn't know what to do with them. So I have this workaround in place currently. Of course, once the bug is fixed, I plan on simplifying the script further, but as for now, this is fine. And I do the same thing for NeoVim, Sway, and not actually the same thing for Vim and ZSH. That's because, as I said, the bug just affects folders starting with .dash, but not actual files starting with .dash. So in case of Vim and ZSH, where I just have a simple dot file, I don't need to do any of this workaround. And here comes one of the really interesting characteristics of Stau. It works using what it calls packages. So the actual argument of Stau, in this case Vim, in this other case ZSH, is called a package. It's basically the subfolder inside the current folder you're running that identifies what you want to install. So let me open a split terminal here. All of these commands here use the package name. Just ignore the ones with the workaround because the package name here is actually .config for all three of this. It really doesn't matter too much, but anyway, if we just go ahead and use the Vim and ZSH examples, as you see here, we just have a single file and it just works. So it calls this directory here, it calls it the Vim package. Same thing for ZSH, this directory here, it calls it the ZSH package. It's just a little bit of syntax for the Stau command, but anyway, it's a pretty handy command, bugs aside. Moving forward, what I'm doing here is something that's, well, not that complicated, but it aims to fine-tune the experience more to the actual hardware that's running. So what it does is it runs an lspci command and searches for the word VGA. If it contains anything with NVIDIA, then it installs the NVIDIA profile for MPV. Otherwise, if it finds anything with advanced micro devices, which if you don't know, it's AMD, it installs the profile for AMD GPUs for MPV. So again, really simple stuff, but as you see, with a simple bash script, again, it looks a little bit messy, but it's actually very easy to follow. And if you want to customize it and use it yourself, of course, feel free to. You can just go ahead and do that and adapt it to whatever you need to do. It's easy to do something like this, even with a couple of if then else. It's very handy. And with that, if I just go ahead and run make links, there you go. I have my .files installed. And of course, I've already installed everything, so nothing changed in my system, but that's the idea behind the system. If everything is already in place, nothing changes, so it's fine to just rerun it if, I don't know, someday I just go crazy and decide to use BSPWM or another window manager and just want to add the configuration here, and I can just run make links and it will just install everything again. And what I already have, I don't have to care about, and what I don't have, it will just install no problem. So what happens if I want to change my ZSH RC? So what typically happens in my workflow is that I just say I want to just make a simple alias for, let's say, CDG, the CDs into my Git folder. And to do that alias, what I typically do is I just run vim, which by the way is alias to nvim. So whenever I run vim, because of muscle memory, it just runs nvim, and then .zsh rc. So I just work with it as if it was a local file, and it just works because it opens the link and it just goes ahead and opens my actual ZSH configuration that's in my .files folder. And what I can do, I can just run alias cdg equals cd get. I can just go ahead and do that. I run and quit, and whenever I run cdg, okay, I have to actually restart ZSH. Whenever I run cdg it CDs into my Git directory. I don't actually plan to keep this, of course, because that's kind of dumb, but anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the my.files directory, and as you see, a change is detected. If I run git status, it says that I modified .zshrc, and sure enough, if I go ahead and try to edit that, the change that I made is here, and you even see in the git gutter here this plus sign, which indicates a new line added. So what I can do here, if I want to actually stage this change, I can go ahead and do git add zsh.zshrc, and then I can just git commit added new alias in zshrc, and then git push. Of course, I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do instead, say I just F up my ZSH configuration, I want to get back to somewhere where I know it's working, I can just go ahead and do git checkout stau, because that's the branch I'm currently on, zsh.zshrc. And there you have it. I just have restored the ZSH configuration so that I can just run cdg. It doesn't find it because, of course, I restored the zshrc file back to where it was before. And this is just really the Git workflow. If you want to know more, look for some Git tutorial. I really suggest you use Git to manage your .files, because that's actually very easy and very powerful way to do that. So to synchronize my .files between my different computers, and I really just have two. I have my desktop here and my laptop that I mainly use. What I do is I just have this repository on GitLab, and let me actually open it up. So there you have it. Here's my actual repository on GitLab. It's gitlab.com/gabmus/my.files. Really easy to find, and of course it's a public repository. So anyone who wants to use my.files, you can just go ahead and grab them and install them for yourself. And I'm actually currently working in another branch called stau, as you probably noticed already. And the reason I'm doing this is that prior to this video, I actually migrated my .files configuration from using manual linking, and let me tell you, that's just crazy, and I don't want to ever do that again, to using an actual system to manage linking, and in this case I chose to use stau. There are other systems out there. I'm sure they all have their advantages, their pros, their cons, but I just find that using stau is an easy plug-and-play solution, and it's not really that big of an overhead compared to my previous solution. And I can still do my custom stuff, like, for instance, doing the conditionals for the MPV configuration and whatever I really want to do. So again, you can just go ahead, grab this configuration, clone it, and install it for yourself. So anyway, whenever I do a modification on one of my computers to my .files, what I do is I just go ahead, open my terminal, navigate to get my .files, and just run git pull. And what that does is it just pulls the latest changes. Of course, there's nothing to pull here, and I actually don't have an upstream set for the stau repo locally, so I just have to git pull origin stau in this case, and of course it's already up to date. Whenever I get back to my laptop, I can just run git pull and have all of my changes synchronized effortlessly. One other nice thing that I can do, having my .files publicly out there, is that many of my friends and my girlfriend actually use my own .files, and since most of them don't really care for configuring, I don't know, their shell or their Vim configuration to their liking, they just like my configuration, or so it happens to be. They just use my configuration, and from time to time, as they update their system, they just go ahead, get to the my.files directory in their system and just run git pull. Of course, you can do the same thing. Just clone my repo and use my.files as your .files. Another thing you can do is, of course, fork the my.files repo on my GitLab and start your own .files repo. You can base it on mine if you want to. You can just start fresh and do it your own way, but that's just the way I like to do it.
Alright guys, this is gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you very much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there, and also remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. Also, make sure to join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community, and make sure to tune in every Friday at 5 p.m. Central European. You'll find all the other times, depending on your time zone, down here for the TechPills weekly live stream. Alright guys, thank you again very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.